Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Host Defense Mushroom for the Mind, Body, and Health. My name is Sarah. I am a nutritional consultant for Choices Markets at North Vancouver location. So our guest speaker tonight is Jerry. A little bit about him. Jerry Angelini. He is a head of education at Host Defense Mushrooms. Jerry has been teaching and speaking on anatomy and physiology, herb-drug interactions, and psychology for over 2 decades and holds numerous certifications and postgraduate credentials. Jerry will introduce you to the most powerful mushrooms and teach you how to use for whole body health. Jerry draws from over 25 years of private practice and training in multiple health modalities. So before we start the webinar, I'll just go over a few housekeeping items. So first of all, for those who attended in this webinar, you all will receive a nutrition box that will looks like this. It is a coupon, $10 off when you purchase $50 or more at Choices Markets. So this will mail it to you, and at the end of this webinar, there is a survey link will be sent to you. So then we collect your mailing address. And then secondly, if you have any question during the webinar, you can type your question in chat box. In order to type your question, you need to go to your YouTube account. And if you don't have, you can create one. And third, if you have nutrition question, you can call or visit one of our local Choices Market and talk to one of our nutritionists. And also you can make an appointment with us to have a complimentary grocery shopping consultation. And also you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram to get more information, what is going on in Choices Market, about all the sales or webinars that we offer. Okay, so welcome, Jerry. So now I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all having a nice evening. Happy November. I can't believe it's November already. That really snuck up on me, right? Just a gentle reminder, we like to let people know that tonight's presentation is for educational purposes, and it's really just to help provide you with some really interesting and hopefully helpful information about the supportive, the science, the research, and rationale of the host defense products. And we've got some great scientific review of some of the raw materials that are contained in host defense, like the mushrooms itself. But it's really, it's not a panacea for disorders or diseases. I am not licensed to diagnose or treat diseases, and in Canada for sure. I'm really here to inspire self-care and a balanced support for all of our bodies, really, and hopefully it will be enlightening for people who are looking for safe alternative approaches to health and wellness. If you do have a medical condition, we really strongly suggest that you work with an integrative healthcare practitioner. Okay. I'm an integrative practitioner. I've got training and experience in psychiatric and chronic illness rehabilitation medicine. I've also studied traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, Western clinical herbalism, along with a number of different bodywork techniques, and have an integrative practice and have had an integrative practice for over 30 years now. And that's an old picture that I need to update. All right, and we're going to cover tonight some pretty cool information, some scientific facts about mushrooms and our bodies. Then we'll jump into some of the mushroom species and a couple of formulas, so we just get right into things. And then we'll take it a step back and we'll talk about some of the unique aspects about host defense mushrooms, and then wrap it up with some time for questions and answers at the end. And like Sarah was saying, please type those into the chat area. And I'll address them all at the end. So, but type them in so that you don't forget them either. I mean, I'm really good at doing that. I'm like, oh, that's a great question, but then I don't write it down. And then I forget to ask the question. So type those questions in and I definitely will respond to them at the end. All right, let's start with some fun facts. And mushrooms have been used cross-culturally on almost every continent on the planet. We know that they weren't used on like Antarctica, right? It's a little bit too cold for mushrooms down there too. So like, but most everywhere else in the world, there have been mushrooms. Mushrooms have been the focus of cave paintings. And up here in the top right-hand corner, this is a cave painting from Tassili caves in Algeria. They date over 6,000 years, and it looks pretty much like some kind of shamanic figure wearing a bee mask covered in mushrooms. Super cool, right? But mushrooms have also been used as fire starters, punk for early rifles, food, clothing. This mushroom hat is made from the Amadou mushroom, and it's still made in some traditional Transylvanian, yes, I kid you not, families, and they have this recipe where, you know, and this process where they delaminate the Amadou mushroom and they turn it into a felt, and then you can make hats and gloves and vests and purses and bags and stuff like that. It's super cool. And then up in the top here, you'll see reishi mushroom. And we've been using reishi mushroom in traditional Chinese medicine for over 2,000 years. So lots and lots of history and relationships with our fungal friends. There are similarities that mushrooms and animals share if we compare it to plants. Mushrooms are like plants in that they both have a root structure, but the plant root system is very passive in absorption. But while the mushroom root-like structure, we call these mycelia, it's much more active, and the mycelia secrete digestive enzymes and immune complexes and quorum sensing compounds. And humans and fungi share approximately 55% of the same DNA, while humans and plants only share about 15% of the same DNA. Humans and fungi, we inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. Plants do the opposite. We have digestive systems, right? And those digestive systems secrete enzymes. Well, mycelia secrete enzymes into the world around them. So they do everything externally. We do everything in our bodies internally, right? They also, mushrooms, just like us, we have immune systems, right? And it helps us defend against you know, like competitive species or pathogens. And they have like a sensory system, which is what are called quorum sensing compounds. And that acts like our eyes, ears, our sense of touch. It keeps them connected to their environment and allows them to adapt. What's super cool is although there are some differences, some of the similarities are what make it particularly helpful for us biologically speaking. Each mushroom can support probably 2, if not 3 or 4 systems of your body all at once. And this is really helpful. So especially if you're looking to kind of, reduce the amount of things you take, whether it's just because you're sick of taking stuff or you want to, conserve money. Mushrooms can oftentimes replace multiple products to support your health goals. There's a lot of research that's going on about mushrooms. So if someone talks to you about how mushrooms have been traditionally used, they are probably working with outdated information. The last 20 years of study on mushrooms has just brought this tremendous amount of information on how the whole mushroom, the fruit body and the mycelium, and even that fermented rice can beneficially impact just about every part of our body. There's some great sites out there. One's pubmed.gov. Another is scholar.google.com. And these are great places that you can get abstracts of lots of different peer-reviewed journal articles. And this will provide you with some, more updated and current technical information. I tend to stay away from blogs, quite honestly, because oftentimes they're not referenced or they're referenced inaccurately, which can also be problematic. So blogs can be nice places for stories, but not necessarily for accurate information, right? All right, let's start off and talk about two mushrooms in particular, and they've got a lot of research behind them. One's lion's mane and one is reishi. Lion's mane is a really tasty edible mushroom. It's if you slice it thin and saute it, or if you, dice it up and saute it, especially in ghee, clarified butter, or just regular butter, it tastes a lot like lobster. Someone called this picture here, they were, when I first showed it to them, they were like, well, that looks like the Lorax. And I'm like, well, it sure does, doesn't it? It's kind of cool. Lion's mane has seen a lot of popularity, especially over the last decade. The Latin name for lion's mane is Hericium erinaceus, and this translates into the hedgehog mushroom. Who knew, right? It is native to northern hemispheres, especially Europe, East Asia, North America. And it grows primarily in those cracks and crevices in the trunks of beech and oak trees, but also you can find it on walnut and maple trees too. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about our neurological system, right? Just to kind of give you some background information. So the neurological system only is about 2% of the body by weight. It's not a lot, but it uses a tremendous amount of the resources of the body. And you can see here, it's like 25% of the body's oxygen, 70% of the body's glucose, and around 25% of the body's nutrients, right? The neurological system is one of the most metabolically active tissues in the body. We're constantly generating electrical currents in our body from the brain and the central nervous system all throughout the rest of the body tissue. And this electricity is measurable and it takes energy to create. So within the brain, there's approximately 1 billion nerve cells, and we call these neurons, and they do send electrical signals. And these are biochemical or bioelectrical signals and they receive them from the rest of the body. Each neuron has a cell body. It has a long nerve fiber called an axon, and then projections of the cell body called dendrites. And we require minerals like calcium and magnesium for sure. It's a big one. Sodium. These are really important for us to actually have these transmissions throughout our bodies. There's also a special covering around many of the nerve cells, and this is called myelin. Myelin sheaths increase the speed of nerve impulses if we compare them to unmyelinated nerves. So whether a neuron is located in your brain or in the peripheral nervous system, these myelin sheaths are critical to the brain and the nervous system functioning properly. The myelin is what is adversely affected in things like multiple sclerosis, but also, as we age, myelin sheaths degenerate too, right? So even just getting older can have a negative impact on our myelin and the functioning of our neurological system. I want to go over a little bit of research with you all, and this is how lion's mane can impact the system. And here are a couple of studies researching the impact of lion's mane. The first is a review of some of the compounds, hericenones from the fruit body and erinacines from the mycelia. These trigger our bodies to create nerve growth factors. And nerve growth factors tell our stem cells to differentiate into neurological tissue. So it supports the recovery and regeneration of our nerves. The second study now up there focuses on nerve tissue damage. And the conclusion of this study is that lion's mane promoted peripheral nerve regeneration after crush injury. So although it's not a human study, the animal model does provide us with strong evidence that we can potentially think about using it for human health and wellness. Here are a couple more studies. These are human clinical trials, and they show significantly supportive activity for our neurological system. A lion's mane was studied with aging men and women showing signs of cognitive decline to see if there would be an impact. And after about 2 weeks, significant improvement was observed across a number of indicators of cognitive functioning and memory. The benefits lasted for the duration of the study and for about 1 month after completion. Another area studied in this second research was mood. And in a group of middle-aged women, lion's mane was able to help balance mood in mild to moderate disturbances for the duration of its use. Again, benefits were seen to revert after about a month. So the takeaway here is that lion's mane provides important nutrients to help support immune health, nerve cell functioning, but also memory, cognitive functioning, and mood, as long as you take it. If you stop, it's most likely that you will lose the benefit. So keep taking that lion's mane. So as a recap, lion's mane is our rock star when it comes to brain and nervous system health, supports cognitive functioning, memory, mood, nerve functioning throughout our bodies. Lion's mane also functions as a prebiotic for our probiotic microflora, and it can balance the immune response in the immune tissue of our intestinal tract. And this can help modulate the systemic immune response throughout our whole body. And then, we're learning more and more that gut health and brain health are highly linked. So this is yet another way that lion's mane can benefit our brain health. All right. Reishi, the Latin name is Ganoderma lucidum, and it translates into the bright-skinned, shiny mushroom. There are many species in the Ganoderma genus, and many of them are interchangeable. Ganoderma species grow typically on hardwood trees in temperate forests. This can be in North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Europe, Scandinavia, Australia. Have I hit them all yet? How about New Zealand too? Yeah, there too. Basically, all around the world in the temperate areas. Reishi has been used for centuries to support adaptation to stress, and stress can manifest physically, it can manifest emotionally or mentally. We can also have stressors that are physical in nature, emotional, or mental in nature. So it's important to remember that as a whole being, the physical impacts the mental, which impacts the emotional, which cycles back to impact the physical again, and so on, right? So there's really no separation. What's also pretty amazing is that we can beneficially impact these stress cycles in the same manner. An important aspect of adapting to stress includes the reduction of our sympathetic nervous system that becomes upregulated when we perceive a threat or experience of any type of stress. And this is what we call the fight or flight response. So reishi has been shown to reduce the sympathetic nervous system and allows us to feel more peaceful without being sedated. Our immune function can also be negatively impacted by stress, especially long-term stress. Reishi's been studied and found to support immune functioning of athletes who were training while living in a low oxygen environment. The athletes who were given reishi had more balanced immune responses as compared to the control group. And then in another study looking at exercise and fatigue, reishi had a positive impact on women with fibromyalgia. And after 6 weeks of using a pretty significant amount of reishi, these women experienced significant improvements in aerobic endurance, lower body flexibility, and enhanced physical performance. So reishi supports endurance, muscle functioning, while increasing our physical response to stressors, simultaneously reducing the neurological hyperarousal that occurs while under stressful circumstances. Sorry, those slides went a little quick. Reishi's also been very well researched for its impact upon many systems of the body. This can include the cardiovascular system. Reishi is an antioxidant for low density lipoproteins. And it's also an antioxidant for our heart cells. And this reduces one of the primary triggers associated with plaque formation. Reishi also balances the immune response in the blood and in the vascular endothelium. That's the inside lining of the blood vessels. Reishi supports cell mitochondria so that they can make more ATP, which is our cellular gasoline, right? Especially if it happens to be in a low oxygen environment. Reishi can reduce that sympathetic nervous system and mildly reduce the tone of the arteries, and this mildly reduces blood pressure. And then reishi also supports healthy glycemic responses in our body, and it's really one of the strongest modulators of the immune response, especially for people who react to environmental triggers like animal dander, pollen, or even dust mites. So, and then, of course, we're not done. Reishi is really an amazing mushroom. It can also support liver health and protect liver cells from toxicity. So it really is no surprise that reishi has been called the mushroom of immortality. And when we see it in this light, it's really one of those mushrooms we can consider using for just general health and wellness, typically for long periods of time, if not the rest of our life. Okay. We're going to talk about 2 more mushrooms, and these can be considered strong allies for the immune response. The first is turkey tail. The Latin is Trametes versicolor, which means the multicolored one who is thin. So it's similar to reishi. Turkey tail species grow on hardwood trees in temperate forests, unlike all the temperate forests around the world. So North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Europe, Scandinavia, Australia, New Zealand, pretty much names them all, right? Host Defense has had our products tested by independent labs, and one of these studies was completed by Natural Immune Systems Incorporated, and this is the peer-reviewed study that came out of that experiment. The research and published articles validates a really robust immune supportive activity of host defense mycelium and the fermented rice that it grows in. So the mycelium, it basically ferments that organic brown rice, and it transforms it. It biologically transforms it from just plain old rice into this unique immune modulatory substance. And together, the mycelium and that fermented rice, they have complementary immune activities. So simultaneously, it engages immune cells and immunological activity, but it also engages the regulatory processes, and it helps the immune system stay balanced. And it even helps the immune system return to a state of watchful waiting once the immune system is done doing its job. So really great support for the start, the middle, and the end of the whole immune process. So many of you may also be aware or familiar with another article that I want to touch base on down here at the bottom. And this was published back in 2012, and it was a human clinical trial that used host defense turkey tail mycelium and that fermented rice substrate. And it was conducted at the University of Minnesota and Bastyr University. And the cohort included women who had breast cancer, who had undergone surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy. And it's really well established that after all of these conventional therapies, like it can really destroy the immune response. And it can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months for the immune system rebound. In this study, after just 2 weeks, the group of women who received 6 grams of turkey tail had a rebound of their immune response to pre-conventional treatment levels. And that's really amazing. Just 2 weeks as compared to 6 or even 12 months, right? After 4 weeks, the women who received 6 grams of host defense turkey tail experienced an immune system rebound of close to twice that of their pre-conventional treatment immune levels. So really amazing, and just supports how strongly the host defense turkey tail can get that immune system up and running and into the game. Turkey tail also supports liver health and liver function. So great for people that want to support their liver health. And then turkey tail is a great prebiotic too, and that's going to support our probiotic microflora proliferation. So it supports things like lactobacilli and bifidobacteria living in our intestinal tract. All right. Agarikon. It's a rare mushroom to find. It tends to grow only on old growth larch and Douglas fir trees. Occasionally, you'll see it on other old growth conifers. Agarikon fruit bodies can grow to as old as 100 years. It's really an amazing mushroom. The Latin name, though, it doesn't really do it much justice. Fomitopsis officinalis translates into something along the lines of belonging to the genus of tinder-like mushrooms. Meh, really boring for what an amazing mushroom it really is proving itself to be. The research on agarikon is still limited. It's kind of in its infancy still, but the published research is mostly geared towards mechanism of action, specifically in vitro antimicrobial activity. There is some preliminary research from host defense that focuses on immune modulation. This still has to be published, but we're getting there. Agarikon and the fermented rice substrate, they show a robust immune cell engagement. And it also supports targeted and modulated immunity. And it directs the immune system towards pathogen identification and elimination. Agarikon and that fermented rice also engage a set of growth factors that help initiate tissue regeneration. And finally, they signal immune responses to resolve or calm that immune system response back down to a watchful waiting or the baseline. I love agarikon when someone presents with an upside down immune response. And what this means is, this is like an example is a person whose immune system appears to let in a lot of invaders, right? So they're really susceptible to stuff, but it overreacts to substances that really should be neutral, like maybe environmental triggers like animal dander or pollen, or maybe even our own tissue. So agarikon appears to kind of flip that immune system back into the right way, back into its appropriate functioning and reestablish like healthy immune responses to invaders without that experience of overreactivity to neutral substances. All right, I'm going to talk about 3 mushroom formulas that can also be considered immune supportive, and really how to choose amongst the 3. The first one I'm going to talk about is Stamets 7, and this is your daily immune support product, and this is for just about anyone, either short-term or long-term. The 7 mushrooms also support just about every system of your body. So it helps with oxygenation, lung function, cardiovascular health, digestion, muscle cell function, nerve and cognitive functioning, blood sugar levels already within the normal range. It even helps our livers function better. So this is a great formula for daily immune support and whole body health and wellness. MycoShield right here is the next layer of support. And it's really, I like to call it the first line of defense in times of vulnerability, right? So if you come in contact with lots of people, or if you're run down or you haven't slept well, MycoShield can be really helpful in boosting your immune response. So there are 5 mushrooms in there, and the spray format is excellent for rapid absorption, and it supports that mucosal associated immune tissue of the mouth, the throat, and the upper digestive tract. And it comes in 2 great flavors, cinnamon and peppermint. So that's also good too. MycoShield, my community, I'm sorry, is what I like to call the big guns. And this is the formula to use when deep immune system support is really needed. So I like to think about my community when I want to make sure the immune system is going to fight for us really strongly. And although it's safe to take every day, if you have a compromised immune response, right, I do like to keep this one for when I really need to get the immune system into the fight, but also maintain it within the normal range of functioning. So Stamit 7 is perfect for daily immune support and whole body health. It's 7 parts, 7 equal parts of mushrooms. MycoShield is really that proactive support, great spray, and then my community for the big guns when I really need to get the immune system in the fight. All right, let's talk a little bit about host defense so that you can learn a little bit more about the company. It is built on Paul Stamets' visionary experiences and research into like these really cool substances, the fungal kingdom, right? And especially the mushroom mycelium. And, you know, when Host Defense started the retail offerings about 12 years ago now, there was really no mushroom category, right? But over the last 10 years, there are lots of companies now that either specialize in mushrooms, they have mushroom products, or they have products that have mushrooms in them. So Host Defense is still pretty unique. So we're going to take a look at some of the things that make us pretty amazing. We're going to start with Paul. He's super cool. If you haven't heard of him, take a look at him on the internet. He does have a site, Paul Stamets. He's also got a bunch of books. One of them is called Mycelium Running. Super cool book, especially if you're into ecosystem restoration. Paul's been a dedicated mycologist for over 40 years. He's got 8 books, like I said. He's received numerous awards and honors for the contributions to science that he's made, especially not just the health promoting mushrooms, but also ecological restoration. He's engaged in a lot of different projects with university and nonprofit organizations and groups. And this is really focused on finding fungal solutions to various different global problems. Host Defense maintains the chain of custody on our products so that we can deliver a premium product. We cultivate and grow 100% of the mushrooms used in our products at our farm in Shelton, Washington. And this is located at the base of the Olympic rainforest. Now, the majority of our samples, they originate from wild specimens, and a tissue sample about the size of the tip of your pinky fingertip, the finger is taken and then brought back into the lab. So this is a super sustainable method, right? It keeps the mushrooms in their habitats to do what they're supposed to do. It protects those native genomes from over harvesting. And of note, like there's one in particular that I think is becoming really concerning for a lot of mycologists, is the over harvesting of chaga. It is a slow-growing mushroom species, so protecting it is really super important. But there are other slow-growing species like agaricon. They're really hard to find, and they should not be wild harvested at all. Those should stay in their environments, and you should look for sustainably cultivated chaga for supplemental use. Host Defense also uses independent labs and internationally recognized testing methods for identity, purity, composition, and safety. And we use things like genetic testing and biochemical assays. We test initial substrate and final products for things like pesticides, industrial chemicals, and heavy metals. We're also performing microbiological assays to make sure that they're contaminant free and there's no issues of endotoxin contamination or things like that. So really important. And it's even more so important when you think about mushrooms, right? Because mushrooms really are a reflection of the environment they're growing, right? They're great, excellent, they're really excellent environmental filters. And part of how they work when they're remediating our environment is they absorb and bioaccumulate some of those substances that are not so wonderful in our environment. So if there are pesticides or heavy metals or industrial waste in the environment, those mushrooms are going to clean it up and hyper concentrate it into their fruit bodies. Wild mushrooms are not necessarily organically cultivated, right? And in order to get an organic certification, it's got to be grown in a controlled environment for a minimum of 3 generations from the wild for it to be cleared of detectable contaminants. And one of the ways that we do that is using something called the p-value system. And this was a process that Paul Stamets developed to track the generational age of our mushrooms and also to clear it and cleanse it of any contaminants and to create an organic mushroom. So part of the process of this is understanding that as we age, our genetic material ages and it loses its integrity. And this, and we become less vital. We become more susceptible to, diseases or illnesses. And this is the same of all biological organisms, and mushrooms included. So the younger that mushroom is, the more vital it is, and the more it retains its memory of survival and competition in the wild. And so the way we do that is we use this p-value system. So we'll take that tissue sample from the wild, we'll bring it back into the lab, and we'll put it into a petri dish where it grows out. And that's called P1. So P stands for petri dish, right? And then what we do is we find out where's the most vital growth in the mycelium from that tissue sample. And so what we'll do is see how it's grown all the way out to the edge and how it's really thick and vital there. So we'll take a square from that and we'll put it in a second petri dish right in the middle, just like you see here, P2. And then you follow that and you see where the mycelium runs, like where is it the strongest and most vital? And you take another square and you put that into P3. That's 3 petri dishes. Once that grows out, you now have an organic mushroom. You've cleared it of all contaminants. It's being tested, of course, to verify and validate that. And then you take a square and you put it into a P4. And then from P4, we can then inoculate a whole bunch of different other mushrooms. The fermented rice. We can grow that out significantly. We've got a vital mushroom growing through that organic brown rice. And it provides us with both the organic status and then the testing along with it to make sure that they're contaminant free. And we've been doing this for over 20 years. So we've got a lot of experience in this. It's actually around 30 at this point because time gets away from me, right? Host defense, we grow our mushrooms on rice, and rice is an excellent food source for both humans and fungi. Rice is naturally gluten-free. It's really well tolerated by most people. The mycelium ferments that rice, and it secretes enzymes that break down the things like fiber and starch, and it makes the nutrients readily bioavailable to our systems. It also allows for the mycelial mass to increase significantly while it reduces the presence of starches. And you'll see here how it grows through. It's pretty amazing. All that white stuff is the mycelia. And although you don't see it inside those rice kernels, there's like mycelia all over that. It's really quite amazing. That mycelial, that enzymatic process converts the rice into highly nutritive compounds. And many of these, they're called arabinoxylanes, and many of these are immunomodulatory. Another important part about growing mycelium in rice is that it allows us to harvest both the mycelium and the fermentation metabolites that fermented rice. If you grow mycelium on wood, you can't like grind that up and put it in a capsule. Even though the wood is fermented, we still can't digest it, right? So you have to grow it in an edible medium or an edible substrate, which is why we use rice. All right, let me run you through how it all works, because sometimes people are like, well, how do you make it work, right? So the first thing we do is we take the rice and we cook it. And then it goes into this huge, like we put them in kilo bags. They're polyethylene, they're non-leaching and recyclable. We get a whole bunch of them and we wheel these carts into a pressure cooker. It's huge. It's got two entrances, one on the outside, one that leads directly into our labs. So after the rice is cooked, it's sent into the pressure cooker. It gets cooked at 2 psi, 3 psi. It's a lot, right? And this is going to kill any kind of molds or yeasts or other bacteria. And it basically completely sterilizes it. So then we can inoculate that sterilized and cooked brown rice, and it's going to allow the mushroom mycelium that we inoculate it with to fully grow throughout that grow out bag. This fermentation happens with 17 mushroom species that we grow. Each species has a different needed length of inoculation to just kind of grow and culture. And, you know, like I said, we've been doing this for a long time, 30, 40 years, in fact. And we've really figured out how long each species requires. Some grow out in 2 weeks. It's really amazing how fast they grow. Others can take up to 2-3 months to grow out. So like, it really just depends on the mushroom. Oh, oops, sorry. We harvest it. You'll see it here. It usually gets frozen just to stop any more growth. And then depending upon what we're doing with it, it'll have like a hydroethanolic extraction, so water and alcohol. If we're doing fruit bodies, we're gonna alcohol extract the fruit bodies, and then we're gonna hot water extract the fruit bodies, and then we'll combine everything together in either a liquid extract or in the capsules. And then it goes through all of the testing, right? So all of those things like microbiological contamination, pesticide, heavy metal contamination testing to make sure that they are in fact safe and effective for use. All right. Do I use the capsules? Do I use the extract? Really, my response is, what are you going to take, right? Because I can tell you from here to, you know, next week why you should do the capsule or the liquid extract. But if you don't like one, you're not going to use it. So if you're okay with capsules, take the capsules. If you're okay with liquids, take the liquids. If you're okay with both, think about the capsules as having the actual mushroom mycelium and fermented rice. They have been heat treated and cooked so that they're going to be bioavailable and active in your intestinal tract. This is great for impacting that intestinal immune response, to supporting your probiotic microflora. And it's just really convenient for a lot of people. The liquid extracts are super rapid in their absorption. And if you're looking for a balancing of your immune response, say there's some environmental triggers and you're thinking about, ooh, I'd like to try some of that liquid reishi or liquid cordyceps, which is half reishi and half cordyceps. That's going to hit your system, like 1 or 2 dropperfuls is going to hit your system in about 3 to 5 minutes. That's pretty fast, right? It can take a good couple of hours for those capsules to digest through and get into your intestinal tract and do their work. So the liquid is super fast. It's really great. It's strongly modulatory. The capsules are super convenient. They help the digestive tract and the gut-associated lymphatic tissue. All right. So another thing that I think is super cool about host defense is that for the last 40 years, sustainability has really been part of our core values. And, you know, interestingly enough, as the company has grown, so has our impact on the environment, right? That's kind of understood, right? But we are increasingly focused on how we can move forward in a more positive way for the people and our planet itself, right? And so we've been incorporating sustainability practices into our everyday business decisions. And one of these is we use 100% post-consumer recyclable plastics. We use no virgin plastics. And people will sometimes say, well, what about glass? Well, glass actually has a really high carbon footprint. It takes a lot of energy to make. It takes a lot of energy to ship, especially if you've got really heavy, lots and lots of glass. So it actually has a pretty high carbon footprint. So the liquid extracts are in glass because that glass is really stable, especially in the presence of alcohol, right? And plastics can leach, so we try not to use those for our liquids. Well, we don't use them for our liquids, really. We have begun the process of doing things like installing solar panels for the labs. And for 98% of the rest of our energy needs, they come from renewable energy sources. And we're going to continue to work on decreasing our carbon footprint, especially over the next 5 years as we get better and better at it. We also take further steps. We sponsor Gold Standard, and you can look that term up online. These are Gold Standard offset projects, and they establish things like carbon sequestering forests. They actively reduce global carbon emissions. They also have things like biodigesters for people in impoverished communities. So what we chose to do was support not just decreasing carbon footprint worldwide. We also wanted to choose projects that were going to help impoverished communities. So we wanted to do more than just one thing. We wanted to also lift people out of that experience of poverty if possible. So with all of those things together, we don't just offset our own carbon, we in fact offset 10 times our baseline emissions. And this is something that we are committed to. We want to really make an impact in our world in more than one way, in a positive way. So we are dedicated to remaining climate positive. And we hope that people will take a look at some of these really cool things associated with carbon footprint reduction and things like the Gold Standard offsets. All right. So really cool chart. We can get this to you if you take a look at hostdefense.com in the benefits charts. These are all over the place. They can be super helpful if you're still trying to figure out, well, what's the difference between lion's mane and reishi? And so we have it right here, all in the pluses. You'll see, wow, this really helps, really strong, right? Maitake has its area of expertise. Agarikon has its area of expertise. So you might want to take a look at that and learn a little bit more. All right. Some key takeaway as we wrap up. We are certified organic mushroom growers and producers in Washington State. All of our products get tested for identity, purity, composition, and safety. We use a really vital aspect of the mushroom and its growth cycle. And there's really access to a full range of the compounds found in mushrooms that help everything from immune response to mood and cognitive functioning and energy and modulation of the immune response and cardiovascular health and lung functioning, right? We grow on organic brown rice, and there's a lot of research ongoing that's still happening on host defense mushrooms that confirm the efficacy of these products. So, and then we always like to say, don't forget about Paul. He's super cool. Take a look for him on the web and read up a little bit about him. But go to his site. Don't go to people talking about Paul. Hear what he has to say for himself. It's kind of cool. All righty. I want to say thank you so much for coming today. I hope this was helpful. And now we're going to open this up to respond to any questions that might have come up while you were watching. And I'll wait for, there she is. Yay.
Okay, thank you so much, Jerry. It was very good presentation. A lot of good information about different kinds of mushrooms. And yeah, I enjoy it. I hope everyone enjoy it too. So yes, now we are waiting for, if anyone has a question, you can just type it in chat box. So, and also I'll tell you a good news that our store at Choices Market, all the host defense products are on sale. 20% off, and sale is until November 15. So it's a good time to come and buy these products. All right. And just as I don't know, I'm still waiting for a question. Just review. So you all get a nutrition box, and at the end of this webinar, you will get this survey link. Then you just need to fill it out your mailing address, and the nutrition box will mail to you approximately a month after this event. And then if you have any nutrition question, you can call the store or email us at nutrition@choicesmarket.com and make an appointment with one of our nutritionists. Right. So, okay, I don't see any question.
Okay.
So probably, so everything is covered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so thank you for attending in this webinar. And thank you, Jerry. Hope everyone has a good evening and
have a wonderful holiday season.
Yes, and Christmas holidays coming soon.
Yeah.
So hopefully everyone getting ready for that. And we'll see you in other webinars. This month we have 3-4 more webinars coming up. Yeah. Okay, so good night, everyone.
Be well. Have a great night.
Have a